Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ, episode number 99, the knife series where I answer all your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. And this week, we're taking a look at some tactically inspired Italian knives, talking about the right kind of pressure for sharpening, as well as talking to Austin about some steel. All right, for those of you new to the series, we answer questions. Some of them sharp, some of them dull. But to submit your questions, to have a chance to have it featured in this series, you have to leave it in the comments section below this video. That's where we pull from. That's the pool we pull from. We're off to a great start, aren't we?
That's the pool we fish from.
99. You'd think we'd have this kind of down after 99 of these things.
No.
Apparently not. First question today comes from Aaron Anglin. This is cool. Aaron used to work here.
Never heard of him.
He had your job, actually.
There was no time
There was
before
no
me.
time before Thomas. What's up, Aaron? Good to hear from you. Recently just purchased a Beretta M9 from a buddy and was wondering if there are any Italian-made folders you'd recommend to pair with it for occasional carry. This one's cool. I kept wanting to say, and I should have pulled one as an example, I kept wanting to say the SIG K320 with the new wood inlays, because I think that's a really cool knife, but it's not Italian. So we'll go with a couple of Italian things for you. First one, how about, I've got three here. How about the Lion Steel Kerr? Man, we're still not doing a great job.
No.
I like this knife. It is a very robust knife too. I have found this particular one has an olive wood handle scale, but you could also get it with G10. Price on this about $194. And I've had to take one of these apart before, and it is robust as all get out. You know, we've got a solid, basically foundation back here with this full metal backspacer, robust liners. The whole thing just is built to take a beating. Blade steel is Sleipner. It is nice and thick in this case for a kind of harder use tactical vibe. Crown spine, however, for comfort, and a full flat grind to keep it a little bit slicey. And the feel in the hand is great as well. Liner lock, flipper, great snappy action as you can hear. One of the things to keep in mind though, as you can see, this model does not have a pocket clip, so that might affect your choice somewhat. But this is a somewhat overlooked Lion Steel, and undeservedly so, so I figured it deserved a moment in the spotlight. Two more here, and both of these are basically come from the minds of two of the kind of foremost recognized tactical designers in the industry. The first being Bob Terzola with the MKM Maximo. Very cool knife and very Terzola. Like you can kind of see it right off the bat. Regular price on these is about $260. This particular one, the day we're filming this, happens to be on sale for about $235, so that's kind of nice. M390 blade, 3 1/4 inches. So it's a good size for being plenty capable without being too big or bulky. I mean, the Lion Steel we just looked at, I think is a 3.4 inch blade. Yeah, so a little bit longer, still manageable. This Maximo, very manageable. Drop point blade, higher flat grind with a swedge. You can get it with titanium or micarta handles. The micarta might be a nice vibe for what you're looking for. And it's just a solid, tactical, everyday carry. You mentioned occasional carry, but this one might find its way into your pockets on more than just the odd occasion. Same thing for all of these, actually. We have a glass breaker on the back. You've got the deep ride pocket clip, and I like the kind of frag pattern texture going on right here. Probably doesn't quite match the grips on your Beretta, but kind of calls to a similar, or draws from a similar well. My metaphors are not so good today. But anyway, it is a really sweet knife. I like them a lot. One more option from Viper. This is a Rick Hinderer design, and it is called the Storm. M390 blade steel again. about 3 1/8 of an inch, so just a skosh smaller than the Maximo, but still a cool option. $215 is the regular price on these two. G10 onlays on both sides, a couple different colors. You can get an orange one, very KnifeCenter-y, I guess, or the black or some other colors too. Ball bearings in the pivot. You've got, in addition to the flipper, you've got a thumb stud option for opening. And because technically, I'm gonna go ahead and call this a frame lock, because you've got these, you know, the G10 is more like an onlay as opposed to an actual structural part of the handle. And it's a nice thick lock bar there. So it doesn't really feel like a liner lock, but you could probably call it a liner lock if you want to. But because of those G10 onlays, you don't have to worry about putting pressure on the lock bar if you want to use that thumb stud deployment, which can be a bugaboo of some other designs, of course. But it's just another fantastically useful little blade right there. Now the cool thing also is there are some signature connections, signature touches to the full fat or the name brand Hinderer stuff, as opposed to being just a Viper piece. You can see the pocket clip is a Hinderer pocket clip. And you've got the, let me get the name right, the Hinderer modular backspacer system. With that removal of that set screw right there, you can swap out different backspacers if you wanted to go crazy, customize, order some alternatives to change up the color. Lots of cool options right there. And some very, very cool knives that I think would be a good complement to your new tactical piece right there. All right, next question comes from Chris Cairns. I need help. I've been getting more and more into premium steels and was wondering if they all take forever and a day to sharpen when the time comes. I know you've covered technique previously, but was wondering if pushing harder is advisable. I use the Sharpmaker in the flat configuration and a strop to finish it off, and I can get hair popping, but I don't like sitting there for hours sometimes. Can you help? I have a Sharpmaker right here. Let's kind of go through your question piece by piece. Do all the premium steels take forever and a day to sharpen? All, no. Some can, depending on the steel grade, depending on how hard that particular blade has been treated. But stuff like S90V and S110V could take a bit longer, yes. Stuff like S30V, S35, I don't find them to be particularly troublesome. I think 3V is a great steel, one of my favorites in fact, because you get a lot of high performance, you get a lot of toughness, and for the given edge retention you get, it doesn't take as long to sharpen as you might think, or at least that's always been my impression of it. As for pushing harder, you kind of want to just let the weight of the knife do its thing. Pushing harder can introduce a lot of different problems, whether you're working with a Sharpmaker or a flat stone or really any sharpening method. If you're working, well, this is a stone system. The harder you push, that means the more tension is on your wrist, the less steady your grip can be, which can cause irregularities in angle, and you could even like push it a little bit the wrong way and blunt your edge. No good. Same thing's especially true with belt-based sharpeners, like the Work Sharp stuff. Real easy to round your edge over if you're pushing down real hard. Now, what you can do for the premium steels, if you're worried about them taking too long, if you want to expedite the process, you can go with diamond-coated abrasives. You can get diamond rods or cubic carbon boron nitride, CBN rods, for the Sharpmaker. The diamond's going to be more aggressive than the CBN. And those will cut a little quicker through some of the real high edge retention steels out there. A word of note, with diamond abrasives especially, pushing harder is even worse. You run into even more problems. Not just because of what was already discussed with maintaining pressure and letting the abrasive do its work, but if you push real hard onto a diamond abrasive, you can actually tear the diamond out of the steel supports, the steel matrix that is kind of holding it there. I've had this happen. I've done this very thing with diamond rods on my Sharpmaker. I wanted to actually reprofile an S30V, what's the word? Fixed blade. Man, I'm batting 1,000 right now. First of all, reprofiling, even with diamond rods on a Sharpmaker, it took way too long. And I wound up going through a whole, ruining the set of diamond rods that I bought on that one knife because I was pushing hard. So I say this from experience. Just let the knife do its thing. Go with the diamond stuff if you want to expedite the process, but let the process work. Don't try to rush it. Don't try to force or push too hard on the rods, and you'll be good to go. And kudos for using a strop at the end. That's always a good thing. I always do that. All right, the next question comes from the Jedi Junkie. Hey DCA, which blade profile has a better predisposition to be the better slicer? A spear point drop point, like on a Swiss Army knife, or something with a classic drop point? So initially I thought this was going to be a lightning round question where I would simply say any blade shape is going to be fine as just a slicer. It's all about the geometry. But actually, I started thinking about it a little more. And I've got two Swiss Army knives here that kind of illustrate what I'm about to talk about. You mentioned a spear point drop point, like a Swiss Army knife. And I believe I know what you're referring to, and that's the typical blade shape on most Swiss Army knives. However, this is not actually a spear point. You'll notice the tip of the blade is a little bit below the center line. So not technically a spear point. There are a few Swiss Army knives to this day that do have a spear point, and I'm talking about some of the models that used to be Wenger models before the two companies officially consolidated under one umbrella, the Victorinox name, like this Evo Grip 10 right here. You can see it has a different blade shape than this KnifeCenter exclusive Pioneer X down here. There's a little bit more belly, and the tip is more along the center line. So this you could get away with calling a spear point, but the Pioneer X, not so much. Now, you'll notice the blade, or the spear point blade on this Victorinox, or on this Evo Grip, has more belly. And that is going to be the differentiator when we're talking about slicing. So think about the task at hand. What is a slice, really? And I know this may seem like a silly thing to get into the weeds about, but stick with me. There's basically two primary types of cuts that cover pretty much everything. You have push cuts and pull cuts. Push cut being literally exactly like it sounds. You're pushing through the material. And a pull cut, or a draw cut, that is what a slice is. That's what it's always meant to me anyway. The slicing motion, that pulling or that drawing of the blade back, that is a slice, and it involves the mechanics of your anatomy doing that. So you can do a perfectly straight back cut, but most likely there's gonna be some rotation to the blade or some changing of the angle. As such, when you're slicing, the more belly something has, typically that means it's gonna slice a little bit better than something with less belly. And I don't have an aggressive example here of a Warncliffe style blade or something like that, but hey, actually Thomas kind of does. Here we go. This old school ZT50, I can almost say it's old school at this point.
Old enough?
Since it is discontinued. It's not a perfect example because you do have the kink in the blade here, but you think as, let's say you're going through your slice, the more you get to the back of it, the more the tip goes down, the less of the blade is actually cutting the material you're cutting. The less of the edge is actually interfacing with what you're cutting. If you have, I'll use one of these other bigger bellied knives as a better example, but if you have more belly at the tip, as the blade starts to point down as you're coming towards the end of the motion, you have got more edge interfacing or interacting with what you're cutting. Just pretend it's like a cut of meat on a cutting board, right? This is a great example. Same angle, you're gonna be dealing with like this much edge cutting through the meat on the cutting board, whereas if you have more belly, you're dealing with a lot more edge. More edge cutting through is gonna be more efficient. Thank you, Thomas, for your example right there. So for that reason, I would say between the two Swiss Army knife examples here, everything else being equal, if the edge geometry is the same, if the thickness of the blade is the same, then the knife with more belly will be a little bit better predisposed towards slicing. Again, all things being equal. Perfect example right here, this LT Wright pronghorn with its Scandi grind, you're dealing with a thicker blade geometry, especially as you get higher up the Scandi grind and into the full thickness of the blade, I would say the less bellied Swiss Army knife here, the Pioneer X, would be a better slicer. So again, all things being equal though, more belly is going to give you a bit better slice. And you can take that all the way to the end through the logical end of trailing point blades with a lot of belly. I mean, that's exactly what they're made to do, is big, long, efficient slicing. So, hope that helps. It's not quite answering your question exactly by like this type of drop point or a spear point, but just in general, more belly. All right, now we do come to the lightning round for today, which comes from Armin Arakelian. David, I really want to know your favorite blade steel. Not that it matters, but I want to know what your favorite is. So I think I may have answered this before, so you can go back to see, if you know where that is, you can see if my answer is the same. I always say I have three. I've got a favorite carbon steel, a favorite stainless steel, and a favorite particle metallurgy steel. I really like 01 for a carbon steel. And I've said like either 1095 or 01, depending on which day you ask me. Today, it's 01. It's not the latest whiz-bang sort of thing, but it is dependable. It's like the old farm truck that never fails to start. Always gonna work. For stainless, I like AEBL. It's good and tough, it's easy to care for, it takes a really fine edge really well. And for particle metallurgy, I like 3V. I mentioned it before. One of the things that all these steels have in common is they're easier to take care of than certain other things in the same genre while still giving you really good performance. Like I said, 3V gives you more edge retention than you would expect given how easy, for me at least, it has always been to sharpen. Same thing with AEBL, sharpens real easily, holds the edge a long time, is crazy tough, and 01 or 1095 sharpens easy enough, good toughness out of it, overall good performance, and just awesome dependability. You don't always need the latest and greatest to do great things. I think those three steels really prove it. Which brings us to our last question, our most serious question of the day, which comes from Austin Freiberger. That's a great name, Freiberger.
I'd eat there.
Let us know when you're opening a franchise down this way, we'll come visit. What's the best blade steel for someone named Austin? The answer is simple, my friend.
MagnaCut.
No, not this time.
Oh.
Not this time. S35VN is the best steel for someone named Austin. And I will tell you why on a future episode. Until then, you have to guess. Tell me down below if you can figure out the Byzantine logic that I use to figure out why S35VN is the best steel for someone named Austin. Drop your guesses in the comments section and go. That's all we've got for this week, however. Let me know your thoughts on the questions. Let me know if you've got some alternate answers, and to have a chance to have your question featured in a future episode, drop it in that comment section below. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives or the sharpener there, check out the links in the description that'll take you to KnifeCenter.com. While you're there, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because if you're going to be putting your money down on one of these products, you might as well be earning some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. See you next time.
I mean, either way, he's gonna have Micarta.
I mean, maybe. Let's go get a burger.
Yeah.
You gotta surprise a burger. Let's do it.
I'm hungry.